Good afternoon. We'll call the public hearing to order. Mr. Brown, has the meeting been properly advertised?
Yes, sir, it has.
Thank you, sir. Good to see everyone. Glad you could come. You're not going to get delayed. We're going to go right into it. Who's going to? Kim's going to immediately. All right. Just for the audience's understanding, much prior to where we are today, there's been a lot of work going on behind the scenes where Mr. Brown and his staff has gathered input from all the departments. And you'll find out from Kim's presentation, some of the departments fall directly under Jerry and Mr. Brown. Some of the departments are called constitutional offices, which don't fall under his umbrella, but they're all county organizations. So data is collected from all those organizations that's in there. I hate to use the term wish list, but the list of requested items, and then we look at that, Mr. Stacy, and we go through it with a fine-tooth comb, and we look at what we have to work with. And there's some things that we'll say yay to, a lot of things we say nay to, and some things put on the back burner we set aside for another day. So that's kind of the process leading up to this. But what has comprised this is really a list of requested items to include salaries from all the organizations that are under the big Liberty County umbrella that has to the point today. And so this commissioner's job today is to explain it to the general public. We'll have this hearing, then we'll have two more hearings, then we'll finalize that. But nothing is final until the very final hearing. So today could be considered a preliminary. Nothing is final until the very final hearing. So we have the opportunity to tweak it as we go along. But that's kind of how we got to where we are today. But just know there's been a lot of red pens that's been used already prior to getting here. So with that, I'm going to ask Kim to come up and lead us through the presentation.
Do we have to officially go into a public hearing, or is it
No, this
just
is
automatic?
like,
It is.
automatic.
This is all there is a public hearing. Okay. We are here today to talk about the proposed recommended millage rate. You adopted your budget in June, months before you knew what the digest was going to provide for you. So you are at a disadvantage when you do that. But like you said, we went through all of the wish lists, carved it down, got to a budget that you thought was proper, could serve the county, the departments, the citizens, with what was needed, with where we're at with our growth today. And so you adopted your budget in June. Now we have the digest, and we have to see what we have to set the millage rate out in order to support that budget. So I'm going to go through a few things for you, and then we'll talk about your proposed millage rate. This slide illustrates for you what the digest has done over the past 10 years. And you can see from 2012 to 2021, this is your gross digest. These are your exemptions, and we'll talk about those. And here's your net digest, $1,411,000,000. That's a lot. That's a very large digest. Your exemptions continue to grow. This is an exemption-rich county. We've known that. It's wonderful for the citizens who live here, but it is a challenge for this board when you try and have to make up those revenues because of the exemptions. And so you can see the exemptions continue to climb, $331 million in exempted properties.
Let me add a statement to that while you're there, because just ironically, the other day I was around some conversation with some people, retired military vet who said, "Where do I go to get my exemptions?" So being in a community that has a lot of military and stuff, we respect them. God bless their service, but those veterans know that there are exemptions that they qualify for with certain disabilities. So they're constantly asking.
Correct.
How they achieve those, and they deserve them. They deserve them. But every time you take a slice out of the pie, someone else has to take up that slice.
Right.
I just want to make that
The
clear.
rest of us have to make it up.
Yes. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, may I say something on that one? Ms. McClark,
Yes.
what is the largest exemption out of, I think we have 19? I think we have 19 exemptions.
Oh, I don't even count them anymore. The largest one, of course, is your Freeport, which was just voted on, I want to say last year, right? Didn't we vote on
We,
the Freeport?
actually not on the
not
Freeport.
Freeport.
It was to do
E-commerce?
the
E-commerce, okay.
E-commerce exemption
Yeah.
was approved.
No, Freeport hasn't, the Freeport exemption, I think, has not been voted.
No, that's been a long time.
Ooh,
Been a
over
long-
20-something years,
By far, that is definitely your largest
the largest
exemption.
exemptions.
Right.
Now, as I was doing a little lookup on that, I saw where that the voters can help determine by voting on the exemption, it could be not, it doesn't have to stay at 100%. It could be 80, 60, 40, or 20%. And it's up to the voters. And I think if this board remembers a while back, I asked that somehow or another that we educate the public and the voters and the taxpayers on what Freeport actually is. Because we have, and I'm not against industries at all, but I am against giving them a free go for the life stay when they're here 30, 40, 50 years, that's still 100%.
Mr. Chairman, Ms. McLaughlin, is it 50/50 now? Is that
No,
what-
what that
Okay.
is that just represents Freeport is 50% of your total exemptions.
ooh,
I just put
50%
that.
of the total,
Your two
okay.
largest exemptions make up, the disabled veteran is
Uh-huh.
24% of your total exemptions.
Right.
And the Freeport is 50% of your total exemptions. If you were to actually take that property and just apply the county millage rate, just the county millage rate, it's about $5.5 million in revenue that has to be made up by everybody else because of these exemptions. So like I said, if you were to apply the county millage rate to this, it's $5.5 million. The Freeport alone is $2.7 million. So I just kind of wanted to give you an idea of what the exemptions are continuing to do, and they do continue to grow every year.
You've got the disabled veterans at 24, and then you've got the over 65, 100%. Is that a negative 1,578?
That meant that the people who qualified for that
Right.
dropped. So last year, that particular exemption was 191,625. This year, it's 190. That just means either somebody dropped off and doesn't qualify for anymore. Maybe they sold their house and moved, I don't know. But that particular exemption, along with these up here, decreased. But your big ones, your disabled veteran and your Freeport, grew and continue to be your two largest exemptions. Let's look at the two millage rates we have. The county, the Board of Commissioners, has two millage rates, one for the citizens in Hinesville and one for everybody else in all the other cities in the unincorporated area. So we can see what the millage rate has done. This is the county millage rate for the citizens of Hinesville, and you've seen kind of how it's tracked. We're proposing to hold it steady from 20 to 21. And then you can see what the other millage rate has done. And we're proposing to go up 0.3 mils. And we'll discuss why we have two millage rates in just a minute. I did want to let you see what the digest has done in growth versus real growth and reassessed growth. So there's two types of growth. There's real growth, meaning the property never existed before, just came onto the digest. And then there's reassessed growth, meaning if your property has been reassessed and increased in value, or sometimes decreased in value. So the yellow shows the reassessed growth, and you can see back in 2012, 13, and 15, we actually had negative reassessed growth. And I want to say it was somewhere in here where the negative growth outpaced the real growth, and so we had a negative decrease in the countywide digest that particular year. We'll talk about the Service Delivery Strategies Act, and this is where the legislature says, look, a citizen cannot be taxed twice for the same service. So if you live inside the city limits of Hinesville, Hinesville adopts its own millage rate. The city of Hinesville adopts its own millage rate. They include in their general fund budget costs for fire services, for the library, for the senior citizen, for the Chamber of Commerce, some of the same expenses that we include and incorporate in our general fund. Because of that, we have to identify a millage rate equivalent to those services and roll the rate back for those people who live inside the city limits of Hinesville. So I'm a citizen that I live inside the city limits of Hinesville. So I get taxed on my city bill, and then I also get taxed on my county bill. That's why I have a different millage rate than everybody else in the county. And some of those services, as I mentioned, fire protection, building inspections, Liberty Consolidated Planning Commission, the library, mosquito control, these are all of the services that both entities contribute to. So if you live inside the city of Hinesville, you shouldn't pay for those services twice. That's why we have a reduced millage rate, reduced county millage rate for the citizens of Hinesville. Now, Hinesville has their own millage rate that tacks on to it as well, and I'll show you an example of that. So this slide contains a whole lot of information. So if we take the unincorporated net digest amount, and we apply the 6.6 proposed millage rate, we'll generate a little over $7 million. We take all of the other municipalities' digest, and we apply the 6.6, and we'll get about 4.2 million in revenue. And then we take the digest of Hinesville and apply 14.8 and generate about $10 million. Collectively, there'll be about $22.2 million that we generate. If you look over here, this is our general fund budget, $42,531,456. The budget that you adopted in June was $1.5 million less than this. This amount includes the pension shortfall that we were just made aware of about a month ago, of about another 1.5 million. So that's what we had to add. Now, this other revenues also includes the use of fund balance for certain items, to include about $726,000 worth of capital that's in the general fund budget, and the $1.5 million shortfall for the pension. So collectively, you're using about $2.2 million in fund balance for this particular budget year. So when I take the general fund budget and I back out all the other revenues and the use of fund balance, what we need is $21.7 million in property tax revenue. At 100%, you're going to collect 22.2, but we all know we never collect 100%. So if I reduce that to 97%, 21.5 million is what we'll collect. We'll have a shortfall of about 235,000. In a general fund budget of 42 million, that's very manageable. Because if he actually comes in at 98%, that shortfall drops to about 13,000, which we've always stayed within our budgeted expenditures, realizing a savings that will help offset any revenues that we fall short on. So we believe that these millage rates, 16.6 and 14.8, to produce a shortfall of 235,000 projected at a 97% collection rate is very manageable. And we don't believe, or we're hoping that by the end of the year, we really won't be that much short, because we'll have savings in other departments like we do every year. When you want to see what that does, if you own a house in the unincorporated area or another smaller municipality like Midway or Waltoville or Riceboro, a $150,000 home at 40% is $60,000. With the millage rate last year at 16.3, your taxes, county taxes, were $978. At 16.6, they're $996. You would pay an extra $18 in your county taxes. If you have that $150,000 home inside the city limits of Hinesville, you'll see the millage rate hasn't changed, and provided that there are no additions to your property and your property was not reassessed in value upwards, you won't have any increase or additional tax. Now, if we look at this collectively, county-wide, and this is what Commissioner Walden had asked me to do last year. So these are last year's taxes. So up, the top one does not include the city of Hinesville. It just includes Liberty County. So Liberty County, and all the other municipalities with a home of 150,000, your millage rates are proposed for the county to be 16.3. The Board of Education has already adopted their millage rate. They went from 16.358 to 15.902. So you will get a reduction in your Board of Education taxes. But again, it's all on one tax bill. The Hospital Authority is scheduled, their proposed rate is proposed to stay the same as the Development Authority. So in total, with the savings that the Board of Ed is going to produce on a $150,000 home, you would actually save $9. Your taxes would be $9 less. Down here, for that same house inside the city limits of Hinesville, there will be no changes in any taxes except the Board of Education. And because it would be reduced by 27, same as up here, but no offsets to increase, you'll actually save $27. And again, thank you, Board of Education. We're all in this together. That's all I have, unless somebody has specific questions, and then we can open it up to comments.
Chair.
Hey, Mr. Brown.
Follow-ins, just real quickly. So, couple of big catches, I think, is some additions to the budget. You mentioned coming into that this year. This year, as you know, we had to budget for 100% of a yearly cost with the original firefighters that you put on last year. Plus, we added additional firefighters for staffing for the unincorporated areas. So that was very good. The other is we assumed operations of EMS from the hospital, which is roughly $1 million that had to be added to the budget, absent revenue, or let's say net of revenue there. And then there were, I'll say more than 11, but 15 plus jailers and peace officers that were put on to help an unincorporated area. Given a COVID year on top of that, if you looked only from the county side, that increase would be about $1.50 a month. So I think we're real fortunate that we had growth in the digest to be able to add those extra protectionary measures and do the EMS thing and take that on for $1.50 more a month. Delighted that the school board did what they did, because that should produce really a no net increase unless you did make changes to your house or have reassessment. So it's, just a couple of big things that maybe the public doesn't realize.
Right.
Thank you,
And we
Mr.
went over these when we talked about the millage of all the added expenses that we're incurring this year at 100%, that last year were only budgeted for partial of a year.
Okay. Commissioner Stevens?
Kim,
So-
for the public, 1 mil equals equivalent to, was it 1.3?
Actually, it's a little bit more now. Should have that for you.
While she's looking for that, I'm just looking at it,
About 1,410,000
okay,
countywide.
okay. What I'm just gonna mention is that, thanks to the growth that helped us out, but also looking at the hospital that was receiving, and is receiving a 3.8.
843.
Okay, now, since the county commissioners now is taking over, was it, how many, Mr. Chairman, you said yesterday, about 50 employees?
Approximately.
About 50 employees that was at the hospital. They're now coming over to the county commissioners. But the hospital is still going to be allowed to keep that 3.8 mills. I mean, couldn't that have helped us out a little bit more? And that's just, and like I say, it's just, and there's gonna be other things that's gonna have to be purchased by the county commissioners for EMS also that the hospital did not release.
So the hospital authority actually is the one who adopts and recommends that particular millage rate. Of course, then it comes to here to put on your resolution for your final approval. And it would be at that point that you could determine whether or not to accept their recommendation or to change it.
Because I think in one meeting that we had, I think Mr. Brown made a statement that the commissioners is the one that actually set the millage rate for the
Right.
hospital.
Right, they will actually, they're a recommending body.
Recommending body.
And it goes on your resolution, and you are the body that adopts that and sets that millage rate.
And I'm not saying, and I know that they got issues over there, also, but also we have issues over on this side. But since we're taking over all of these employees, that's what I'm looking at.
I know that, I believe they can go up to what, 4 or 7?
They're actually allowed, I think, to go up to 7.
At request for 7. So,
They-
and I don't know that they've requested an increase in at least a couple years or so, that we've stayed flat at the 3.84.
I'd have to go back and look, I don't know.
I think it stayed flat.
And I think it has, and I do believe, and we all know that there was some issues over there financially, but I believe they're starting to turn a little bit, but not completely. But you're right, we have taken over the EMS, and I think that was a good move in doing that.
I hope so. But like I say, I'm just looking at, we
Right.
can look at it. I don't know if Mr. Brown ever had a good conversation with them or not.
We checked into CARES Act money or ARPA money, and unfortunately, since they're not classified as a rural hospital, they don't qualify for the biggest chunk of the ARPA funds that come. I know they have requested that Congress try to take a look at that, but they don't qualify for the largest pot of money that most hospitals do that are rural.
They have been, they're not rural anymore, so therefore they can't.
Regional.
Metropolitan.
Yes, sir,
Yeah,
metropolitan.
Metropolitan.
MSA, yes, sir.
Yeah, I guess for the census count, or for the count of the is what it goes by, but we're not rural anymore, so therefore they can't apply for those funds. But they're trying, like he said, going back to Congress, see if they can get some help with that, but.
Before I open up to the audience, commissioners, you all, any other comments? No, good, all right. Audience participation, anybody would like to?
I think Commissioner Waller.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead and let the gentleman speak.
Okay.
I'll be,
Go ahead and speak, sir.
I just, Kim, when you showed the figures here for the city of Hinesville, I'm trying to find it on my slide here, and,
It's your very last slide, which,
no, you were looking at the city of Hinesville growth, real and reassessed growth?
yeah, well, no, that was countywide.
Okay, but you're showing 2021,
Uh-huh.
and,
We had a net growth of $108 million.
Most of that would have been in Hinesville, though.
The majority of it, yes, sir.
well, that's what I'm looking at.
Yes, sir.
And we're talking about growth being home.
Because when you look at this, and this, I think this slide gives much more information than people realize. The net digest in the Hinesville is here, 676 million. I mean, they're
Lion's share.
half of the digest. When you apply 14.8 to Hinesville, you generate more money than you do in these other two. But that is why they have a 1.8 rollback, because of those duplicated services. But you're right, the majority of the growth and the majority of the services
Well,
are in Hinesville.
all of us that have been here for a while understand that the city limits has grown as far as it can grow that way. It's grown to the Allenhurst and the Walnutville area. So unless it possibly can go toward the Gum Branch area, we could be, you're gonna be looking at the other municipalities, will have to start adding up a little bit here, because the city of Hinesville, even though we've discussed this, we can't continue to pay, for some of these services that's out here. Now, I know under the House Bill 489, we're not going to, but we can see only growth on the east end, and that's gonna be an issue, because there are gonna be services needed in the furthest area away from what facilities we got. And I'm talking about, we do have the courthouse buildings here, we got the hospital up here, but there's still nothing around in our other areas but homes, so that's gonna be when you got the more homes in these other outlying areas that don't have services, it's gonna lay back on us to make it up, whether it's garbage, dry trash, cleaning roads, or whatever, so that right there, of course, like Commissioner Stevens says, if they're not paying it, then we need to be getting it, whether it's the hospital or whatever, but if the other municipalities are out there not paying their fair share, then that's gonna have to be entered back into our digest, whichever way they can, so. But when you look at that, there's not much room left. I mean, land-wise, we're through, we stopped on Fort Stewart, we stopped in Flemington, and the only growth that we're gonna have is gonna be in our, other municipalities. That's all I wanted to see, Kim, if I was looking, I found it right here, the graph that you had, I must have folded it back earlier. It just shows 2021 real growth and reassessed growth.
Yeah,
Thank
Yeah.
you, Pam, I appreciate it. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Gentleman.
and that's countywide.
I understand. And just so, sir, while you're coming, I'll talk while you're coming to the mic. Speaking to the realtors, especially those who are commercial, there are a lot of places looking to squeeze in more places in Hinesville.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, right now, we understand that the water and sewer is the issue.
Yeah.
We're stocked with water in the county, or, the whole county we can't do nothing.
Listen, the blessing is the increasing the digest, the challenge is how do we keep up with it and how we manage in water is one of those things we got to manage.
Well, I
Yes, sir.
think we're
Get
doing
some.
an excellent job managing it. I'm just saying, now we're gonna have to look at some alternatives
Yeah.
down the road.
Especially as the growth goes out more into
Yeah.
rural Liberty County. Yes, sir. If you state your name for the record, please, sir.
Yes, sir. My name is Michael St. Ange. I live on Floyd Street. And I do concur with what you just said, Mr. Walden. You're my Area 6 representative, and I appreciate that, and finally get to see the face.
How long you lived over there?
I've been here for 20 years, but if somebody in this town don't start doing things to help the Floyd estate, you're out of here. Because I'm going to come after everybody's job, and I'm going to take it, and I'm going to run it for the people and not for the politics, okay? But that's another story, okay? We don't want to talk that. We're not here to talk politics. We're here to talk taxes. I see what you're doing and what's done here, okay? And going negative is just like a soldiers and retirees. We don't get to use a hospital that we pay taxes on through the hospital authority, okay? And the money's channeled out towards Little Wussy at a retirement home, and services aren't there for us, okay? And I 100% agree, if we take over EMS, we take all the funds that come along with EMS for that responsibility. Now, there's a lot of ways we can do to help fix some of these shortfalls on our taxes and shortfalls of the money we don't have. And that's tightening this thing called a belt, okay? I've tightened my belt 147 pounds in the last 5 months, okay? And I'm tightening my belt more as we go with my money because I only see so much as a retired soldier. But when you're asking 18 here, gas prices, food prices, everything else going up for our economy, I'm sorry. Turn my lights off next? Go without gas for my house so I have electricity for heat? Okay? Don't cut my yard. Make a choice. This is what you're causing us when you raise taxes. And Mr. Stevens, you got some great points over there, and I'd like to talk further about those, but later on. Things I think you could do to help out. I don't know who pays the water bill in this city, but this rejuvenation of Main Street, turn the water off. When I do a construction project on Fort Stewart, I have 12 months to establish a grass. Once it's established, the water comes out. Quit running the water. Quit wasting the water. Quit fixing broken pipes like we just did the other day. That's money that we're just throwing out the window. I know we want to look beautiful, but don't throw the money away. Turn the lights off in this building at night. Turn the lights off over at City Hall. Quit putting 100% of flags out there. Do the corners to celebrate our holidays. Same thing for Christmas. Instead of lighting up every pole from here all the way out as far as you can go east, west, north, and south, stop doing that. Do the corner intersections. Do the city. bring the people back into the city to rejuvenate the city, okay? We do not do a very good job of that at all in this town at all. We want to make up shortfalls, but we're not doing anything to stop wastes. I see guys driving around in our city vehicles, sit there in their vehicle, doing whatever they want, sitting there with air conditioning running and running and running and running and running. 5 guys out fixing a broken pipe and an excavator working there. And when the pipe is found as broken, it's asbestos, they're still down in there, and they throw dirt in there, and next thing you get a pothole like this on Floyd Street, by the way. That is not correct. You go in there with a compactor, you compact it in layers in 6 inches, because it's a hand compactor, till you get to the top. You put your surface in there, compact it, and you put your asphalt down. Do it right. We're not doing a good job, gentlemen and ladies, on how we're managing this. And we could save a lot of money doing it and doing it right. I can't tell you what the cure for it is, but I can tell you, we, the people, can no longer continue to take the money out of our pocket. EMS, take that money. It belongs to you guys. If you're taking it over, take your money. If you don't, you're at a loss at it, and I'm going to pay for it if you don't. Board of Education. They're sitting over there in a building that's 3 stories tall, $13+ million for a building. And what is the efficiency rate of that building? How many offices are empty over there? How many floors? Do any of you know? Have you ever walked in there? I challenge you to go do that and see what we have done, and we've built something really big, and it's not being used effectively. Courthouse, City Hall, okay? You guys are here in this building. I applaud that, okay? You're trying to make do with what we have, and that's what we need to do more of to save our tax dollars. Everyone's. This is not just me. This is you guys too. Exemptions. All these people getting exemptions, I'm sorry. I'm a retired veteran. I get 0 disability. I try and look out for my health, spend my money wisely, and live within my means. Okay, so we get a break on a $20 license plate. Okay, they can pay it. It's not going to hurt them, because a lot of these disabled veterans are getting over $4,000 a month more now for retiree. And when they walk out the VA, they go in with a cane, they come out and they're playing basketball, they're cutting grass, there's nothing wrong. That needs to be addressed as well, but it's going to take a higher people than you guys, okay? And I realize that.
Yes, sir.
I'm against that kind of stuff. These exemptions, somewhere you guys are tighten the belt, please, and say no. I'm sorry, we can no longer, at the time, we can no longer continue to afford this. If we continue to raise our taxes, then something has to go. And sometimes you got to tell these businesses, it's nice, but instead of giving you 40 or 50 years of doing this, the first 5 years, we give you that tax break. After that, you're going to start messing up, you're going to start paying a little bit more, because you're definitely making a little bit more money. And because of the pandemic, everybody's lost a little bit of money. Understand. But we're still here, and we're going to continue to be here, and we're going to fight through this. I noticed a little thing in there earlier, some of the money being spent. Mosquito control? When's the last time we had a truck go through our neighborhood? Or is it on one side and not the other side? I've not seen that truck now in 2 or 3 years. In fact, I've seen the lightning bugs come back. Something I hadn't seen since I've been here. There's no mosquito control, so where's that money going to? Who's getting that? Not Liberty County and Hinesville. As far as I don't see it anywhere. And I'm out quite a bit. Friends of Liberty. Really? You can be my friend, but help take some of the burden. You know, I can't afford to pay everybody. And the document that you put up here on the screen, can we get a copy of this? Mm-hmm. I guess, okay, I'm against raising any taxes, I'm sorry. I think we can tighten our belts and do a better job with our budget. And I challenge you to find that way. With all your red pens and ink and stuff that you put on there, and I appreciate all y'all hard work, okay? Everybody that does this job, it's not easy. But a lot of you have some good points here, and working together, I think we can do better to help all our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I was trying to see if there was any questions or comments from Facebooks, and we're all frustrated about taxes, and I hear you, and I know this board does not control what happens inside the city limits of Hinesville. You don't control
School board.
school board. You control only what the county does. So I cannot speak to, water bills inside or water running inside the city limits of Hinesville, that's the city. Can't speak to road work inside the city limits, that's the city of Hinesville. I struggle with this every year because it's this time of the year that I cringe and say, wow, I wish there was more interest when we adopt the budget. Because those public hearings, when we adopt the budget, go through very specific expenses and services that this board is tasked with, which are very different than municipalities, including the city of Hinesville, which is the only municipality that has a millage rate. The other municipalities don't have a millage rate. So I get it. I'm frustrated too, but this board can only direct what you have control over, and those are county services. So I know our mosquito control trucks go out, but, I don't even know their schedule. I can't even answer that
Yeah,
kind of stuff.
and just for the gentleman's thing there too, so the county has mosquito control, but this is only for the unincorporated areas outside the city. And so inside the city, because I'm a city resident too, the city sets its own budget for mosquito control, and the city sprays our areas.
I understand.
Yes, sir.
But I'm paying taxes to the county. okay?
Yeah,
But you're paying taxes to the city too.
And this, oh, yes.
But you're not paying for mosquito control
No, but
to
I'm
the
saying
county.
I'm paying
Yes.
taxes, the double thing that you talked about Texas earlier, ma'am. I'm part of that, okay?
Right, and that's why we
If I pay
reduced yours.
Just for, if I don't have kids in school, I feel I should have to pay for school taxes.
Wow.
But we all pay. For our children in the future, the better country. Better world.
Kind of like the jail.
And we do
I
that.
don't stay out there, but I'm glad we have it.
It's like a hospital. You have to pay
I-
a fee on that I don't use, can't use. If I walk in there, might as well just die because they're not gonna help, okay? This is what I'm trying to say. And yes, so why is the county putting taxes on? The county controls the codes. Next to my house, where they're building they wanna build a 40-unit apartment complex.
That's the city, not the
That's
county.
the city, it's totally
The county
separate.
is the one who just did the code.
No, no,
That's the city.
no,
That's the
sir.
city.
No, sir, They're totally separate, yeah.
That's not the county,
apologize.
yeah,
You're
but,
correct,
yeah.
But that's why I was at my house, and I gotta find everybody to stop. Somewhere, this is gonna stop.
I think a lot of your
County
questions,
millage rate is 14.8, and somebody else who lives in the unincorporated area is 16.6. Because for, well, no, they're not paying a city tax bill like you are.
Right.
That's why on your county tax, we're not taxing you
for mosquito control,
mosquito control, for county fire services.
no.
We're not taxing you for that.
But no,
The
no
city
taxes
is.
from us when to build all those fire stations out there, and all these.
No,
sir,
no.
they're not.
Just the,
I'm learning.
right, yes,
Yes, sir.
yes, sir.
Yes,
And
sir,
that's why the county millage rate for the citizens of Hinesville.
It's different.
is different than the county millage rate for everybody else. Because we're not gonna tax you, me, Mr. Brown, we live inside the city limits. We're not gonna tax you for those very specific services. To include the fire department, which has been a significant expense the last 2 years. But you and me and Mr. Brown, who live inside the city limits,
And me.
and Commissioner Walden, thank you,
And
we are
Commissioner Gillum.
not paying for that on our county tax bill, because we pay for fire services
In the city.
In the city.
tax bill,
Well, that bill, we pay stormwater tax,
on the city,
In the
City.
city.
that's a lot of money we could use for some other help for areas.
City. Sir, I think as I listen to you, I know you said you've been in, 20 years you've been over there? And-
Before too, so
without any disrespect, had you got to know that guy right there, a lot of your questions could have been answered a long time ago.
I put a flyer on his door the other day.
Your question could have been answered a long time ago between he and
Well, I was trying to figure out.
Jason Floyd.
I live on Floyd Street, Cynthia
Yeah.
Floyd's, old house,
Who?
built in Cynthia Floyd.
Yeah, I know
House
right where
built in
you,
1958, and I've lived there and, love my trees, love my shade.
yeah, I went over there one time when you lights.
And I don't love what's about to try and get in my front door. I don't want anybody looking down inside my bedroom or my living room 24/7.
A lot of your questions could have been answered had you known that guy right there before now, as well as Jason Floyd,
A little bit more all the time.
as well as your city council person, Jason Floyd. He's good to work with too. So those are the people you,
Sorry, I disagree with what you just said.
did you? Yeah.
Jason's not helping me one bit.
Yeah.
I knew
and-
Mr. Floyd and Ricky and all of them, but I mean, I guess you're talking about the piece of property through the woods that, the Jelks piece is what you're talking
Yes,
about?
Mrs. Jelks, I used to go visit her and say hello all the time.
Well, let me ask you this question since we're still in a meeting here. You said you don't get your exemption for the military?
I've got a military exemption as far as my vehicle taxes.
No, I'm talking about military exemption for,
If-
He has to be
Has been
disabled.
disabled.
It would be disabled.
He has to be disabled to get,
I'm not disabled. I pride myself on retired after 24 years of service.
Oh,
I'm
I'm-
going to suck up all these things our tax
Yeah,
dollars.
but
I
that,
misunderstood. I thought you said you was getting a disabled tag. Okay,
No.
all right.
Disabilities, from a lot of people are getting disabilities.
and that's not a Liberty County law, sir. So we can't fix,
Everybody in the room.
yeah. And those people, if they were here, they'd be just as supportive of what they're getting as versus what you're saying. You know they would, yeah, they would,
They're getting
they would.
on this, which I don't understand what it is, property taxes over
Yes.
60.
Yeah, that's the thing I was gonna mention too, just to be helpful for him, not to drag this out too long. Every one of those exemptions, well, let me put it, this board doesn't have the authority under law to put an exemption in place. It either's got to be voted on by the people like Freeport, like Commissioner Stevens was saying, or either it's enacted by the state General Assembly. So, yes, sir, just so you know.
See what more of these, this report is, I haven't.
Okay.
See to see.
Okay.
So Freeport is a tax, is an exemption on goods and services held in inventory at year end by manufacturing firms. And it's specific to the Georgia law. Yeah, so, well, so, let me see. Well, Target's not a good example.
on their inventory.
Well, so, but first, it's got to be a manufacturer, so it's got to make the product there. It can't be one that just holds it in inventory and ships it out. It can't receive it in, hold it, and ship it out. Those are not eligible. Those are distribution. Now, those are some of those are related to e-commerce, like your Amazon storage centers and some of those type things. But the Freeport, it has to be held manufactured and held in inventory and be on hand, on the first of any year, okay, to get the exemption. Normally, those are put on pretty much standard across the state, not every county, but in order to draw industry and jobs, it's a very competitive tool that counties put on. Counties don't put it on, people vote it in. And then the inventory, the Freeport is either at 100, 70, or 50% when it's enacted. And usually, and that's what I want to check on, they are a declining nature tax down to a certain level. So I do want to check. I made a note to see. So as industries come in, if you put an industry in, manufacture the good, anything you got in inventory January 1st would be tax exempt Freeport wise.
Like a restaurant.
No, sir,
No.
no, sir, because they don't manufacture anything. So, Interstate Paper Corporation that manufactures the paper. Paper held on hand January 1st, since they manufactured it there, the value of that inventory would be Freeport, if it is still under Freeport. And I'm not sure with Interstate.
You still,
Interstate's an old industry, yeah, I'm not sure whether Chemtall. Yeah, see what I'm saying? Chemtall that makes the chemicals. Yeah, chemicals, they manufacture there, they're on hand January 1st.
So is there, exemption decreasing with time, or does it stay the same?
But varies by exemption.
It's,
The Freeport, I want to double check, but I want us to know that we had some that came out from under.
we did.
They do, I think they have it for a period of time and they come out. But I'll double
It's
check,
over a certain amount of years.
right.
if they don't go back and renew it.
Well, right, but still, it gets to the point that, because the citizens are going to start paying more money, and they still get the exemption, and they're still making money, and making record profits at times, they need to spend some money back.
And that's really why rather declining things should be there. I think that's what you're saying.
Time, and, it's great, we're going to give you 10 years exemptions,
Right.
Come 11, 12, 13, you're gonna
Right, that's what I'm looking at, yeah.
Yeah, everybody didn't get the same exemptions either. They vary according to
But I think most of them in the
manufacturer.
county right now is still at 100%.
But out of the 159 counties in Georgia, my mess is,
60%.
out of 159 counties in Georgia,
60%.
more, higher than that, half Freeport.
They have Freeport, but they have it on a, they have
Yeah, to
Freeport,
attract
Mr.
the
Chairman,
industry here
but
to
they have it on a declining scale.
In order to be competitive, yeah,
Right.
yeah. And all of our neighboring counties have it. Yeah,
tax rate on us.
Yeah.
Liberty County versus those other 159, okay?
Right.
Where do we sit in the state on tax?
15.
well, you got to be careful with that too, because, you know, once again, had you been talking to your commissioner, you would have known, you can't, it's not apples to apples when you just look at the rate like that, because they may have fees that you pay as versus it's in your millage rate. So it can get hidden. Yeah, it can get hidden. Be careful.
Kind of like with recreation, we provide it, a lot of people with the kids, some places, if you go, you're gonna have to buy and pay, so it is different.
It's
But,
different.
Yeah.
I'm glad I know where you live at over there.
Y'all can have coffee.
Watch out now, watch out, watch
Mr.
out.
Chairman, there is one question that came across.
Okay.
They wanted to know a little bit more about your role over the hospital and managing it. And best I could tell, they were trying to figure out if we set the millage, are we over the hospital? We don't manage the hospital. We don't set their budget. You do set the final millage rate where they do get a piece of revenue from property taxes, but it is the hospital authority who recommends that millage rate in conjunction with looking at their total overall hospital budget of what they expect to receive and then what they need to get from property taxes to cover indigent care. Now, it's supposed to be for indigent care. They can levy up to 7 mills. You can levy up to 7 mills on behalf of the hospital for indigent care. So when this board adopts your final millage rate that has all of these pieces here, has all of these millage rates, to include the hospital authority, you are saying, okay, we approve this millage rate to be applied, and that money will go directly to the hospital to help with their operations for indigent care. I hope that explains it.
And just for the gentleman's clarity too, when we assumed EMS, we also assumed the revenue they were making. So we didn't leave the revenue over to the hospital. Yeah, it is coming to us.
We do get the revenue. They had consistently had a loss in
Right,
that operation.
exactly. It's not a moneymaker.
Year over year over year, there was consistently a loss.
not a
So
moneymaker.
We brought over all of the operations
And the law.
And
and
And the law.
and the revenue
Let them
and
keep-
created
But
about
at
$1
least we
million
got an
loss.
ambulance
Yeah.
in the county that will come get you if
That's
you
right.
need services. That's what it's all about. It's not gonna make no money. That's right.
No,
No price on
no.
a life.
Okay.
What is that FMV?
Where?
fair market value.
Fair market value, I'm sorry. Fair market value.
And then what is the 40%?
That's what you're taxed on. So you'll have a fair market value of your home. If you look at your assessment, it'll have a fair market value and then your taxable value, which is an assessed value. It's 40% of your fair market value is what you're able to be taxed on. So your assessed value is 40% of your
40% fair market value.
And then I also was, my name is Joy Moritz, by the way. I also live in your district, Mr. Walden. What is the SPLOST? I mean, how does that fit into the budget?
Special purpose local option sales tax is the extra 1 penny that is, it goes to the county for capital projects only, not operations. So that is the extra penny that everybody shares in to include people who just pass through the county. It's the best, most fairest tax
Best tax there is.
that you can have.
Yeah.
Because, you know, that enables you to increase your infrastructure, roads, or whatever buildings, fire stations, or health departments, or EMS buildings, the actual buildings. Now, it doesn't help you run operations, so once you build it, you gotta operate it.
burden falls back on the taxpayers. Double-sided edge.
So it's not included in this budget at all? This is the operational budget? By law, it has to have its own separate budget and operational fund, and it does, just for those capital funds.
SLOST is a 5 or 6 year program, depending on how you vote it. Our SLOST, Sales Tax 6, is a 6-year program. It has its own separate budget, its own separate fund. This that we deal with when we talk about millage rate is only to support the general fund operations.
Ms. Kim, to just mention this to you, when you asked about Splosh, the fire stations out in the rural area is built with Splosh. The Justice Center built with Splosh.
No.
But you still got to come back, yeah, right, yeah.
So it was her question, though. Are you clear,
Oh,
ma'am?
I'm sorry.
Are you clear?
My questions were basically for you. Well, I do think that once you approve this, it'll never go away, and then it'll end up increasing. And eventually, you'll end up with no property owners to pay these taxes because you're penalizing property owners.
Well, see, that's the beauty of the growth in the digest, like that she explained today.
What is a digest?
Kim?
Compilation of all the property value in the county. So every piece of property, include personal property, that is your boats, your cars, your homes, your outbuildings, your, that's the digest. It's a compilation of every single piece of property. And then you'll have, in that digest, it'll be broken up into sectors, whether it's industrial property, commercial property, residential property, personal property, that type of thing. But that is, we say the digest, that we apply the millage rate to, meaning every piece of property gets a millage rate applied to it. That's how we generate the revenue. I'm trying to remember our budget. I want to say close to 57, 58% of our total revenues are generated from property taxes. The county is much different from the city or any other city because the county has state mandates that are not funded. So all of your court systems, for instance, they're not self-sustaining. And I don't use the courts, but they're not self-sustaining. They are a state mandated. By law, we have to
Provide for them.
Certainly the jail is not self-sustaining. I mean, I agree.
But there's all kinds of tickets out there. Where's the money gonna go?
Oh, the money, that money goes into the general fund to help with operations. If you remember, I showed you there's about $20 million in other revenue. That includes, see that $20 million right there? That would include
Fines and forfeiture.
that would include local option sales tax. It does go into the general fund, not special local option sales tax, just the regular local option sales tax. It also includes, permits, it includes any kind of fines that you pay, anything like that, all the other revenue that we generate.
My final question, I'll ask no more. Okay.
Fine.
I like the question.
You've all educated me a lot today, and I appreciate it, and maybe I should come to more of these. If it wasn't for this lady beside me, I would have known it. And
I
was
thought
out there
y'all were
on the
together. I didn't know you were separate.
And, I was throwing on my hat a couple of years ago when I was going to be running for mayor. When Alan said he was going to do it, I backed out, okay? Because I know who I can beat and who I can't beat. And I know when I'm defeated. But you guys have something there on one of the slides about the Development Authority. And that one I'm picking at because I feel as those people are really in my front door. And I'm trying to defeat
By law, they're given 2 mills. That is.
2 mills.
They wouldn't be in his front door, though, Kim.
No,
That's-
no.
that-
So
I think
this
something about
is the
planning
development
commission.
authority that helps recruit industries and trades and things like that.
As a part.
It wouldn't be associated with the
No.
development you're talking
Downtown
about.
Development Authority. Is that what you're talking about? Different from Liberty County?
Yes, there's two different things.
Right.
And really industrial attractions.
Right.
Not that that's all they've ever done, but
And I'm
that is.
all for getting more industry in here. I wish I could help know how to do it.
Yeah, and so they were created by legislative action. They're a constitutional authority, and by that constitution, it says they shall have 2 mills levied. There's no chance.
This has a very important point. You're understanding the constitutional authority. If everybody looked back at constitutional law and authority, a lot of things wouldn't be happening. People checking blocks right now on things. really not been looked into. When I go back and find laws in 1964, surprise, surprise, surprise. Why didn't you do that, and you're my representative in the city?
Yeah.
Not the city, but I'm finding all these new things out, and it's just, it's so much research that I should have to do. I should depend on the people in office to do it.
And like I said, that development authority is not the downtown to Hinesville. Development Authority.
I wish you all would work together.
We do.
Together.
Is there
Okay.
anything else, any more questions on, that was, okay. Yes,
Ms. Kim?
that's it.
Mr.
Yes, sir.
Brown? Moses, thank you for the job that you've done.
We normally hold a public hearing on the budget in June, every year.
This one was in the,
Costa, right. Mhm.
I mean, it was such a huge ad, I couldn't.
Yeah, I know. Thank you, Costa Courier.
We had more money this year.
Yeah, no, we run those ads every year. We run those ads every year, and I guess it just depends on,
But the city of
we
Hines,
also put it on our website.
It's on the website.
yeah, and the city of Hinesville budget hearings were published too. Yeah,
Yeah, I know.
I read them,
I know.
yeah.
If I tell you to make a 81%
You know-
vote, would you know how to do it?
Yeah, I know.
When does the Hinesville adopt their budget in millage? It's, is
Yeah,
it this
but they
month?
just completed their budget hearings, I saw it
Let
in
me
the
say-
newspaper too.
Billboards can help us.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not sure when they adopt, but I just saw their,
I think there's still time for you to attend the city of Hinesville's.
I think,
I think they may have had that last one, their budget hearings.
what about the Board of Education?
Public, no, I don't think they had the public hearing on the budget. They might have had department meetings, right?
Well, no, they would have, their budget starts October 1, right?
No, I thought it started
Is
November
it
1.
November 1? Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, maybe they haven't had their last.
November 1. I know they're setting their millage this month. I don't believe they've already set it.
I heard Kim
So
Ryan
you-
talking about
You
it.
still have time, I believe, to attend that. And that's addressing a lot of your
Questions, statements, yeah. Let me say this to you. I heard what you said earlier about building buildings and having space up there that's not occupied. Guess what? When this annex was built, during that year, during that time frame, it was sizable enough. Now it's not. Now, to come back and add on, it costs you just almost as much to come back, to add on, just like at the hospital, when they built the hospital, there should have been a morgue built with it. They did not build a morgue with the hospital, they had to go back, and it cost a substantial amount of money to add it on.
Liberty County and Hinesville should be one, okay? And all these vacant areas, Board of Education, even in the City Hall building. You don't need to get a bigger building, they need to share. Together, we can achieve more.
Yeah.
We don't have to rent for it, we shouldn't have to worry about that. There's the City of Hinesville, Liberty County, together, we all achieve more, okay? It's called team. Okay? And if it's empty, Board of Education is the biggest frustration I've ever seen. The massive building right there and not being used to its efficiency. It could be. City Hall, courthouse.
Courthouse don't fit that, sir. Our courthouse people.
Every single
Our
office
courthouse
in there.
people tell us they need more room.
They need more room now.
They need more
That's what
room.
they're saying.
Yes, sir.
They need more room now.
That's why I say if they were here to hear you speak, they would address you.
At least for the Justice Center, because you've got state court, superior
Yeah.
court, and
Those other two are
Well, we
Probate
can't
court,
speak for them. I can speak for the
magistrate
Justice
court,
Center. No, we run out of space over there. Our Board of Elections need more space, and you don't want a little office here, a little office there, one over here, one over. You need them all under one umbrella kind of thing. So we're trying to do that.
But in the time of trying to crunch and save our dollars,
Yeah, that's why we're trying to maximize the use of SPOS to build the buildings with. Yeah.
I've always been after Liberty County and Hinesville to work together as a team, because everybody in this room will benefit from it. Okay? If we can show the rest of this world how we get along, like the other year when they had the march here on Main Street, and they came in and thought they were gonna tear it up, we did the right thing. We took all the vehicles away from the street, even the one that went out there and thought we could create a riot with it, pulled him off of there, he didn't like it, he got a nice $75 fine for a tow truck. Have a good day. I call it. But I call the chief police and the sheriff. Oh, if we can show the rest of this nation how to do it right, then the rest of the nation can do it. And that's what I'm after is a team of the country across from each other. But the thing is work together and let's find a better way instead of raising taxes. I know we're gonna have to because we're growing. But with growth becomes more taxes taken in. We just built out 75 more homes out there by the, out towards Midway, behind the sheriff's office there. Clay Creek area, all those new homes there, there's no revenue coming from this.
They will.
They will be.
Exactly. And that's money coming into the till.
Yep.
But not yet. But the thing is, planning properly, I
Yep.
know we can make it work and not have to raise tax again.
So they're not exempted,
The
whatever this new thing is.
The new homes? No, those are just residential homes. And as long as they're completed by January
By
1.
January
They
1.
would be on the digest for that respective year.
During construction, I know how to beat that too.
Yeah, they're not quite ready yet. We'll go one more year. Yeah.
And that's why our inspectors have a big job, and we should take care of our inspectors.
Okay. All right.
Let me close with this, just for your information, and I'm glad to hear you say you're learning a lot. When it comes to Liberty County, those that come visit our community, especially other governmental agencies, they give us accolades all the time about how well we work together as a community. We get that all the time. Where a lot of people, a lot of communities, they fight, we don't do that here. We work together. When we get together to decide on SPLOST, it's a very, what's the word? Cordial process. You know, all those things. So we do a pretty good job. You just wouldn't know it, but we do a pretty good job. Yeah. Well, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Can we improve? Always, always. But we do a good job.
I voted, I put you in office, and Mr. Walden, I have put you in office. Yes, I have.
Thank you, sir.
Your district area, and the other people, I appreciate meeting you today.
McLaughlin,
Nice meeting you today as well.
thank you.
Thank you for what you
My office is always open. I have an open door policy, so. Finance. I'm the CFO for the county.
All right. Is that it? Let's give it all. All right. This hearing is closed. Thank you so much.
Thank you for